Okay, Parshas Vayera, page 78. Before we start, you probably would have smelled it in the air this morning, but we, thank God, are safe here. But there's a lot of places in certain world where there's a state of emergency. The fires are out of control, so we should daven and maybe learn in the schus and the merit of all the people that are battling and are being so challenged that everything should be safe and everything should pass the way it should be. So, let's learn. So, as I say, it's Parshas Vayera, page 78. So, just a bit of introduction. So, when it comes to Avraham Avinu, there's 4 Parshas that mention Avraham Avinu. 2 of them, we could say, are the main Parshas of Avraham Avinu. What do I mean by that? So, the end of Parshas Lech, we have the birth of Avraham Avinu. That's 2 weeks ago. That's the first 75 of Avraham Avinu. That's just before he gets a command from Hashem. He's very much still working in the logical context, where he's working out and discovering Hashem with his own intellect, with his own rationale, not yet, so to speak, connecting or discovering the soul, as we talked about last week. The 4th one, just to go to the other side, is Chayei, which is next week. Chayei is a lot about Avraham Avinu, but it's really more to do with Sarah and Yitzchak. Not so much Avraham Avinu himself, right? Parshas Lecha and Vayera, those are the 2 Parshas of Avraham Avinu. Morning, right? Yeah? So Lecha is when Avraham Avinu really starts, the history of Avraham Avinu begins. Hashem gives him a command, the first revelation, so to speak, of Hashem revealing to Avraham Avinu and commanding him with a mitzvah. And as we explained last week, Lecha is telling him to go to himself to discover his neshama, to realize that he's the first Jew, so to speak. In other words, chosen by Hashem. And it's from Lecha where Avraham Avinu starts to serve Hashem, not only to do with his own rationale, but more as a Jew, more as someone connected to Hashem. And then comes Vayera. So I'm mentioning this because Mepharshim explained that the division is not by chance. In other words, Lecha and Vayera are 2 very distinct parts of Avraham Avinu's life. As great as Lecha is, it doesn't come to Vayera. Because Vayera, Lecha is Avraham Avinu from when he gets the first command until circumcision, until bris milah. Right? So at the end of Lecha, he circumcised himself. Once he circumcised himself, it starts Vayera Elav Hashem, Hashem appears to him on a completely new level, as the Zohar says, and we'll talk about this soon. In other words, Avraham Avinu of Lecha is infinitely greater than Avraham Avinu at the end of Noach, but Avraham Avinu in Vayera is an upgrade. It's a whole new Avraham Avinu. And I'm mentioning that because what I want to try and do is explore that a little bit. I'm going to explore that primarily from the beginning of the Parsha, but then we're also hopefully going to have time to connect it to the end story of Vayera, which is the story of the Akedah, the binding of Yitzchak. And I want to also show you a connection to the Haftarah. Okay? Because the way Avraham Avinu is upgraded in Vayera, in context of the previous history of Avinu and what he did to get to that upgrade, to get to that level of Vayera, really has a very, very important lesson to all of us of how we serve Hashem. And that's how I want to put it all together. Okay. Yep, we good? Okay. So let's just learn the first few psukim of Vayera, which we've done many times, but the story is well known, but let's just have a look at the psukim. So the pasuk says, page 78, Parshas Vayera, Vayera Elav Hashem, and Hashem appeared to him, Be'eloinei Mamre, in the plains of Mamre. V'hu yoshev Pesach ha'oil, he was sitting at the tent, at the door of the tent, k'choim hayom, in the heat of the day. Vayisa einav vayar, he lifted his eyes and he saw in shlosh anashim, there were 3 men. Suddenly, Nitzav Molav standing upon him, over him. Vayar, and he saw them, vayaras lekrasam, and he went to meet them, he ran to meet them. Pesach ha'oil, from the door of the tent, vayishtach ha'orza, and he bowed down. You'll know the story. Avraham Avinu was sitting in the heat of the day. Hashem made it hot, so he shouldn't be bothered by wayfarers. He was pained by the fact that he couldn't do achnas asarchim, he couldn't be hospitable, and Hashem brings him guests. But also not just guests, they were the 3 angels, and they were there with a mission to do different things, right? Vayomer and he says to him, Adonai Hashem, Im no matzasi chen be'einecha, if you find favor in my eyes, I'll not savor me'lavdecha, do not go away from your servant. Yukach no ma'at mayim, let's take a little bit of water, v'rachatzu raglechem, wash your feet, v'ishanu tachas ha'etz, and you will recline under the tree. Ve'chavas lechem, and I will take bread, pas lechem, bread, they both mean bread, and we'll see why in a second. V'sadu livchem, then you will satisfy your heart, you will eat. Achar ta'avayru, after that you will pass, you will go away. In other words, Kel ken avatim lavdechem, because you've passed your servant, please stay in. Vayomer, they said, Kein ta'aseh ka'asher dibarta, yes, do as you have spoken, and we're going to oblige. So before we go into the whole thing that I want to explore, I want to just share with you a very beautiful Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai says that hinted in these psukim is Avram Avinu laying out the pathway in general for serving Hashem and how we serve Hashem. Because what does he tell? So have a look at Pasuk Dalet, the fourth Pasuk. He says, Avram Avinu says, Yukach no ma'at mayim. Take a little bit of water. The first thing Avram Avinu says is there has to be humility. Ma'at mayim, a little bit of water. The foundation of serving Hashem is ma'at mayim, a little bit of water. And it's water. Why is it water? Because the word mayim tells us, first of all, I mean, he doesn't say this, but we know the water in general represents humility, because it says just like water flows from above to below, that's how water works, unlike fire. Water always flows downwards, that's the concept of humility, the willingness to go down, the willingness to reach and connect to someone that's perhaps lower than you, and so on and so forth. So that's mayim in general is a symbol of humility. The Ben Ish Chai also says that mayim is the correct kind of humility. Sometimes people display humility, but it's only superficial humility, and the humility is not through and through. It's not what he calls toichei kabare. The inside is not like the outside. Sometimes people display humility because it's nice to appear to be humble, but is the humility permeating through and through? So he says humility has to be true humility. That's through and through, because that's like the word mayim. How's the word mayim? So he says a nice little word. The word mayim is mem yud mem, right? Mem and Yud, basically it has two letters, Mem and Yud. What's unique about Mem and Yud? There are one or two other letters like it also, but Mem and Yud are from the very few letters that if you spell them out, the hidden gematria is exactly the same as the revealed gematria. Mem is spelled Mem Mem, right? 40 and 40. Yud is spelled Yud Vav Daled. The Yud is 10, Vav and Daled is 4 and 6 is 10. So the hidden part is like the revealed part. He says, Yukach no ma'at mayim. Avram Avinu says, take a little bit of water. A little bit means be humble. But the humility should be like mayim, that the inside should be like the outside. It should be true humility that actually flows on all layers. Yeah? Then it says, V'rachatzu raglechem. When you become humble, the first thing you have to do before you can serve Hashem is wash your feet. Get rid of negativity. Let go of things that are impure. Right? And why raglechem? Why wash your feet? Why not wash yourself in general? He says, because feet is a reference to the things that people trample on. In other words, you've got to get rid of subtle negativity as well. Right? As we know from Parshas, we've talked about this before. There's certain things in a person's life that are impure, which are blatantly impure. We know we have to get rid of them. We know we shouldn't be involved with them. Then there are things that we justify, we rationalize, we treat them lightly. Because it's not that bad. It's just a small little thing. Those are called, those are called the things that a person is dosh ba'akevav. They trample on with their feet. In other words, not important. Rachatzu raglechem says, wash your feet, get rid of the negativity, even subtle negativity, even those things that you tend just to step on because you think they're unimportant. Okay. Then he says, well, once you do that, then you can serve Hashem. Why? V'hishanu tachas ha'etz. You can recline under the tree. Tachas ha'etz. He says, what's that? This is Ben Ish Chai special. He says, this is a reference to Hashem. Why? If you look at the Aleph base, what's under the word ha'etz? What comes after Hey? Vav. What comes after Ayin? Pei. What comes after Tzadik? Kuf. Right? The letter Kuf. Which spells out, in other words, so Kuf, Vav, Pei, spells out the letter Kuf. Right? if you spell out the letter Kuf completely, the Gemara says that Kuf is a reference to Hashem. So he says, how's reference to Hashem? Because it's a Kabbalistic thing. There's different ways of writing Hashem's name, right? So Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is 26, correct? But if you do it differently, every letter of Hashem's name you square. So the word Yud is 10, 10 times 10 is 100, right? Hey, 5 times 5 is 25, 6, Vav is 6, 6 times 6 is 36, and then again, hey, 5 times 5 is 25. The total of all of that is 186. 186 is the gematria of Kuf Vav Pei. Kuf spelled out properly. She says that's what it means. V'hishanu, and recline, become connected to Hashem. How does the Pasuk say Hashem? Tachas ha'etz. The letters after the word eitz. Tachas ha'etz. After the word ha'etz. After ha'etz is Vav Pei Kuf. Kuf spelled out, which is 186, which is Hashem's gematria of Hashem's name, what we call b'miluay, completely filled out. The perfect name of Hashem, with completion, perfection. Because it's each letter times itself, which signifies Kabbalistically a perfection or a filling out, so to speak, of Hashem's name. Okay. Then he says, engage in mitzvahs. Ve'ekcha pas lechem. So he was giving him a meal. So he says, meals are also mitzvahs. Meals are sudas mitzvah. We eat meals of mitzvah like Shabbos, Yom Tov. What do we do then? We take Lecha Mishnah, we take 2 pieces of bread, correct? So that's the hinted in this pasuk. Ve'ekcha pas lechem. Because actually I never thought about it till I learned this. It's a very funny expression. I will take pas lechem. What's the translation of the word pas? Bread. What's the translation of the word lechem? Bread. So what does it mean, ve'ekcha pas lechem? It's an expression, I guess, it means piece of bread. But he says different. The word pas, he brings from a very fascinating Rashi in Chumash. How do we know that the tefillin of the head has to be 4 compartments? Right? You know the tefillin of the head is 4 compartments, right? The yad is 1 compartment, the tefillin is 4 different compartments. How do we know that? Because when the pasuk says you have to put on tefillin, it says that these paragraphs will be a sign on your hand, meaning you put them on your hand, on the tefillin sheyad. Right? Toitofos also means a sign, but it's a very strange word, toitofos. It'll be a toitofos between your eyes. Says Rashi, bringing from the Gemara. Toitofos comes from 2 words, tat and pat, which apparently in 2 different languages, each one means 2. Tat means 2 in some language, pat means 2 in some language. Tat, Rashi says, pat Afriki, somewhere in Africa, pat meant 2. Right? So 2 and 2 is 4. That's how we know that there will be 4 compartments to the tefillin. So toitofos is tat and pat. Pat means 2. Says the Ben Ish Chai, ve'ekcha pas lechem means I will take 2 breads. Lecha Mishnah, like we take on Shabbos. Pas lechem, 2 breads. Okay. Then you'll do all these things, and then it says, this is very fascinating, it says, if you look at the pasuk again, in pasuk 5, ve'ekcha pas lechem, I'll take 2 breads. When you'll eat the su'udah, you'll eat the meal. In other words, you'll have humility, you'll purify yourself from negativity, you'll connect to Hashem, you'll do His mitzvahs, do the mitzvahs even with the meals. And after all of that, what's the destiny, what's the goal of all of this? Future history? Achar ta'avayru. After that, you will go. Ta'avayru. So he says, what does that mean? He says, achar means after, ta'avayru is tes avayru. Not tes, tov. After the tov, that's where you're going to go. What's after the tov? We have the letters. Tov is the last letter, right? What's after tov? Sorry? No, not true. No. So we have the 22 letters of the Aleph base, and then we also have what we call what the Gemara tells us called man sapach, the final letters. The real way the Aleph base is situated is it goes Aleph to Tov, and then man sapach. Man sapach are mem nun tzadik pei chof, which the Gemara says is a very deep thing. It's the final letters. It was taught to us by the Nevi'im, by the prophets, and we learn in Gemara and in Kabbalah that these 5 letters have to do with Geula, have to do with redemption. And I'm not sure exactly how this works, but we are taught like this, that Avraham, each one is connected to a different tzaddik. Avraham is connected to Chof, Yitzchak to Mem, Yaakov to Nun. Moshe was Pei, Moshe was the Redeemer. I know how that works because Moshe Rabbeinu came and he said, Pokoi the Pokadati. Hashem says, I have remembered, that's the Pei. And when it comes to Mashiach, that's the tzaddik. Because it says Tzemach Shemo. It says in Tanakh, We say at the end of Sukkot and Hoshana Rabbah that Mashiach will come, his name will be Tzemach. Tzemach means he will sprout out, will be a tzaddik who will come and redeem the Jewish people. Each one of these 5 tzaddikim experienced the concept of redemption in some way. So therefore the redemption has to do with the concept of these 5 letters. Ultimately the tzaddik is the ultimate one, that's the one of Mashiach. Therefore says Avraham Avinu that after you do all these things, Achar ta'avoiru. After that, the test, after Tov, avoiru, that you will go into what's beyond the Tov. You'll go into the letters of Geula, the letters of redemption, which is the concept of Mashiach. That's Ben Ish Chai's interpretation of the first few psukim of Parshas Vayera. Okay. But let's go back to the thing that we want to actually explore, which is to understand what happened over here by Vayera, which is so amazing, which connects to this, because obviously this was when Avraham Avinu was really showing us the way of how to serve Hashem. So there's a fascinating Zohar. Again, just to recap. Lecha is Avraham Avinu from 75 years old, from when he gets the mitzvah, till Bris Milah. Vayera is post Bris Milah. Okay? Post circumcision. New level altogether. What does the Zohar say? The Zohar says the following. The Zohar says, now let's go through this slowly because we have to understand the Zohar's words. The Zohar says that until Avraham Avinu circumcised himself, the communication he had with Hashem was what he calls b'machazeh. Machazeh means in a vision, not direct. More in like, what's what I'm looking for? Like not such a vision with clarity. It was more like a machazeh means like a dream or a sort of some sort of cryptic prophecy, right? So Hashem communicated with him, which is from Lech onwards, but b'machazeh, more in a cryptic sort of vision, right? When it came after the Bris Milah, when Avraham Avinu decided he's going to circumcise himself, Vayera Elav Hashem. Hashem revealed to him properly. In other words, with the Hashem, with the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, as Kabbalah explains that the name of Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, is the highest name of Hashem. In the highest name of Hashem itself, there are different levels. Vayera Elav Hashem was the highest level of Hashem that could be revealed to Avraham Avinu, and that started from post Bris Milah, and that was a vision of much, much greater clarity. Says the Zohar, what's the reason for this? So he says something quite in itself cryptic, which we have to understand. He says, because we know that the Malachim, right, the angels, don't understand Targum. They don't understand Aramaic. Do you know that? That's a famous thing. The Malachim don't understand Aramaic. Right? They don't understand Hebrew. Therefore, until Avraham Avinu, what's that? Hebrew, other languages, but not Aramaic. Yeah. So until Avraham Avinu was circumcised, says the Zohar, he had a cryptic vision. Which cryptic vision, says the Zohar, the definition of that is that Hashem communicated with him through Targum, through the Aramaic language, not the holy language, not Lashon Kodesh, which is fascinating because obviously in the Chumash it's all in Hebrew, but the Zohar says it was more Lashon Targum, right? Why? So the Malachim shouldn't complain. The Malachim shouldn't complain. Why are you revealing yourself to someone who isn't circumcised? Okay? After he circumcised himself, now Avraham Avinu is such a great level, the Malachim can't complain. So now, Vayera Elav Hashem, now it's a clear vision, and a clear vision means using Lashon Kodesh, using the holy tongue. That's what the Zohar says. So the Rebbe once in a talk, he said, what is it supposed to mean? First of all, what do we care what the Malachim think? Either Avraham Avinu deserved the vision, or he didn't deserve the vision. Right? If he deserved for Hashem to reveal himself before Bris Milah, so Hashem will find a different way to take care of the Malachim. If he didn't deserve the communication, didn't deserve the higher level of revelation, so why is the reason given because Malachim? Right? The reason should be because he didn't deserve it. He wasn't at the level yet. He hadn't yet done Bris Milah. Alright? Clearly understand the question? Yeah? Okay. So he explains like this. He says, first of all, what's the difference between Hebrew and other languages? So in Torah Or is a sefer from the Alter Rebbe explaining the Parshas of the week. In Parshas Mishpatim, he says the difference between Lashon Kodesh, the holy tongue, and Targum is similar to the difference between a stone and a brick. There's a whole thing in Kabbalah and Chassidus about stones and bricks. The reason that's brought is because we compare language generally to stones. Language are building blocks. Like you put together letters, you get words, you put together words, you get sentences, you get paragraphs. It's like a building, right? And also that words are like inanimate objects within inanimate things, like it's just as good as what you put into them, like stones. So there's a lot of comparison between language, letters, language, words, and stones. But in stones itself, there are two different types of stones. There's stones and there's bricks. Says the Alter Rebbe that the difference between Hebrew and Targum is the difference between a stone and a brick. What's the difference between a stone and a brick? A stone, a rock, is a divinely created entity. A brick is a human creation. It's a human design. Right? Meaning, Targum, Lashon of Targum, the Lashon of non-Hebrew language, are man-made languages. They are like bricks. The words are always like stones or bricks. Therefore, when we talk about words that were man-made, designed by the human being, they compare to bricks, because they humanly made, right? Whereas Hebrew is a holy tongue. Hebrew is a divinely created language. Hebrew is the language which HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself used to create the universe, and it's his language. It's an infinite language, and therefore it's compared to stones, because stones are divinely created beings, right? What does this all mean? So like this. We know that Avraham Avinu, we say, kept the whole Torah, right? And this is true with all the Avos. And they were very, very high level. They were very great tzaddikim. However, in Kabbalah it's brought that even though Avraham Avinu kept the whole Torah before it was created, however, with all his Torah and all his mitzvahs, he wasn't able, or they weren't able, we should say, to reach a level beyond creation. They could become very, very holy created beings, as they were. But they couldn't go beyond the concept of creation. Now, when we talk about creation, it's a very deep idea. When we talk about the concept of creation, we're not only talking about this world, right? We know that there are many, many creations, and there's what we call in Kabbalah Seder Ishtalshus. There's an evolution of worlds that Hashem created, which are some of them are very infinite worlds, and holy worlds, and great worlds. There's Malachim, there's angels, there's holy, spiritual, infinite beings that Hashem created, which are far beyond and greatly higher than our world, correct? But they all fall into one category. They're creations. They're creations, not the creator. Right? When Hashem created the world, part of being a creation, part of being created by God meant that you're limited by being a creation. You're limited by being someone who can only reach as far and as high as the limitation of the creation is. You can never exit or go beyond or transcend the concept of creation becoming one with the Creator. That would be impossible before Matan Torah. Right? After the Torah was given, and the Yidden were given Torah mitzvahs, and there was the combination between heaven and earth, and Hashem came down to Har Sinai, that mechitza, that division, so to speak, between the world and Hashem disappeared, and it became now possible that through doing Torah mitzvahs we can actually elevate ourselves and elevate the world to a level which transcends the definition and the limitation of creation. Does that make sense? Yeah? Within Avraham Avinu's life itself, however, yeah, this divided into two parts. In other words, generally we normally explain this concept between before Matan Torah and after Matan Torah. However, in a different way, on some level, this was Avraham Avinu before Bris Milah and Avraham Avinu after Bris Milah. Avraham Avinu before Bris Milah, even after Lech Lecha, and as great as Lech Lecha was, as we explained last week, he was still a creation. And all the mitzvahs he did, because he wasn't commanded by God, he could become holy, he could elevate, he could reach a tremendous level, but he would still be within the confines of a creation. After Bris Milah, when he was commanded by Hashem to do a mitzvah. In other words, we are taught that when Avraham Avinu got the mitzvah of Bris Milah, for Avraham Avinu that was like a mini Matan Torah. It was like, it wasn't commanded with all the mitzvahs, but it was like a mini giving of the Torah. Hashem commanded him to do the mitzvah. Not only did he command him to do the mitzvah, but he commanded him to do a mitzvah that would leave a physical imprint on his physical body of his connection to Hashem. Suddenly Avraham Avinu had an unbelievable upgrade. And Avraham Avinu all of a sudden was elevated beyond the level of a creation, and he was able to have a revelation of the highest revelation of Hashem. Yud Kei Vav Kei Vayera Elav Hashem. He was able to connect to, bind with, become one with Hashem himself, as Hashem transcends the limitation of creation. It's a deep idea. Does that make sense? Are we okay? Yeah. Now we can understand the Zohar. Okay? The Zohar says that until Bris Milah he was Targum. He was not Hebrew. Why? And the Zohar connects it with the complaints of the Malachim. The Zohar is not saying that Hashem had to hide it from the Malachim. It's not saying that. What the Zohar is saying is that before... Oh gosh. Ugh, I forgot to turn it off. Oh gosh, I'm going to mess up the whole thing in 1 second. How do we... Okay, there we go. Got it. Right? The Zohar is not saying that before he wanted to hide from the angels. What the Zohar is saying is that before the Bris Milah, Avraham Avinu was like an angel. What does it mean he was like an angel? Angels are very lofty beings. Angels are divine beings. Angels are amazing beings. But they're still creations. And they're limited to being a creation. They cannot go beyond themselves. They can go as holy as they created. They can't go more than that. Avraham Avinu was like an angel. That's why the Zohar says that the revelation given to Avraham Avinu before the bris was in Targum. Because Targum is like bricks. Bricks are man-made. Creation. You're still a creation. You're not divine again. Right? That's what he means about the angels. Whereas after the Bris Milah, after Avraham Avinu gave himself over completely, he was willing to submit to Hashem. There was the concept which we describe as the idea of bittul. In other words, he was able to reach a level where he was giving himself away completely. He was becoming completely subservient to Hashem in a way where he didn't matter at all. He was going beyond himself. That was what the bris created within Avraham Avinu. He graduated from being an angel. He became someone who then can go beyond. He can connect to Hashem as he transcends the world. That's why he now got the revelation in Hebrew, because Hebrew words are stones. They're divinely created. It's the revelation of the Creator, not only how the created can relate to it, but as the Creator relates to it. That's Avraham Avinu. Now, this is very, very nice. What's it going to do with us? All right. What's good with us is like this. First of all, we have a principle, and this is particularly relevant to Avraham Avinu's lesson. Unlike Yitzchak and Yaakov, which we'll see in a second. What's going to do with us is like this. This revelation that Hashem gave to him was a gift. In other words, this is something that a person cannot reach on their own. It's a gift. It's a gift means, in other words, to go beyond ourselves, that's a gift from Hashem. Because as much as we work, we can only do within ourselves. We can't go more than ourselves, right? We can only go to the highest possible, perfect level that we can do. When Avraham Avinu went to that perfect level, up until and including the Bris Milah, and the Bris Milah was a complete Mesiras Nefesh, it was a complete self-sacrifice, it was a complete system where he was totally giving himself over to Hashem, where he was inviting Hashem's imprint into his own body, so to speak. That was the ultimate that Avraham Avinu was able to do himself. Hashem says, you've done what you can yourself, Vayera Elav Hashem. Now I'm revealing to you at a completely different level. Right? So we have a principle that says, we've mentioned this many times, called Maaseh Avos Siman Lebanim. The actions of the fathers infuse us with a siman, with a strength. Although what happened to the forefathers are then transported into our service of Hashem. So we need to know the following. We need to know that we can also reach that level. If Avraham Avinu could reach the level of, it was Vayera Elav Hashem, on some level we can also reach that connection to Hashem. There's a famous story, in fact, that's always told in Parshas Vayera. This coming week is Chav Cheshvan, the 20th of Cheshvan. It's the birthday of the previous Rebbe's father, the Rebbe Rashab. It's a famous story where he was a child, he was 4 or 5 years old, and his birthday is around Parshas Vayera, and he went into his grandfather to get a bracha for his birthday. When he went to his grandfather, he started to cry. So his grandfather asked him, "Why are you crying?" So he said, "Because I learned in Chumash this week. He was in Cheder. He started learning Chumash that Hashem appeared to Avram Avinu. Vayera elav Hashem. And I want to know why Hashem appeared to Avram Avinu. It doesn't appear to me." Right? So the Tzemach Tzedek, his grandfather, answered him. He said, "I'll tell you why. Because when a Jew is 99 years old and he decides that he wants to circumcise himself, he deserves Hashem to reveal himself to him." Right? So the Rebbe would often tell the story, and he would say, we have to understand the story properly. First of all, nothing happens by chance. The fact that we know the story, especially if it happened to someone who later became a tzaddik, which means already when he was born he was something special, it means there's a lesson. What's the lesson? The lesson is both in the question and the answer. The lesson is that we all have to be like the Rebbe Rasha. We all have to cry. We all have to want to have divine revelation. We all have to want to have divine connection. And then we have to understand what the Tzemach Tzedek answered. He wasn't just pushing him away. He wasn't saying to him, well, he deserved it because he was circumcised himself in 99 and you'll never make the cut. He says, no, learn from him. When the Yid is 99, which means the Yid is old, he's set in his ways, but he's prepared to grow, he's prepared to let himself go, he's prepared to give himself over to Hashem, that's the person that gets the revelation. He wasn't it's a misunderstanding of the story to say that he was saying, only Avraham Avinu got it and you won't get it. No, he was saying, you also can get it. We all can get it. We all can get it if we're prepared to have bris milah, we're prepared to circumcise ourselves, we're prepared to submit, we're prepared to give ourselves over, we're prepared to go beyond ourselves. Right? However, we have to also understand that level of connection is a gift. Where does the gift come? The gift comes after we've done everything that we can. In other words, if we look at ourselves and we say, hold on a second, but we know we're not at that level. We're struggling people. We challenged people. We don't always have the right kavanah. We're tempted and we have temptation and so on and so forth, right? That's fine. Because we need to do what we can do. When we reach the level we can reach, Hashem takes us on a journey which is far beyond what we can reach. And that's the lesson from Avraham Avinu. Because Avraham Avinu, in his life, had two parts. From Lech Lecha until the Bris Milah, he was struggling. He was doing whatever he can do. He wasn't able to go beyond himself. But when he reached the perfect level that he can go beyond himself, Hashem says, now I'll take you further. Okay. Which, by the way, is an unbelievable connection to what Rashi says in the beginning of the Parsha. Rashi says, Vayera elav Hashem. Hashem appeared to him. Says Rashi, Levaker es hachoyle, to visit the sick. Right? We know Hashem was visiting the sick, right? So, on a simple level, Avraham Avinu was sick, he was recuperating, so Hashem visited him. But there's something very deep in this concept of to visit the sick. In writings of Kabbalah it explains, the word choyle, the word to be sick, what does to be sick mean? Sick means you're missing something. You want something, but you can't get it. Right? You want to feel better, but you feel sick. You right? Or sometimes we in Shir HaShirim or in Davening we say sometimes there's something, even when we serve Hashem, there's something called choilas av, or sick with love. Love, what it means sick with love, which means you love Hashem, but you yearning to connect and you kind of can't get there, right? Now, what's the gematria of the word choyle? Sick? 49. Right? What's the idea of 49? We've talked about this before. We know that Chazal tell us there are nun sharei bina. There are 50 gates of divine revelation, divine understanding. 49 is the ultimate perfection of what a person can reach. The 50th is beyond our reach. It's like we've talked about this in the Omer. We can only count 49 days in the Omer, and if we count 49 days in the Omer, Hashem gives us the 50th. Right? Avraham Avinu from Lech Lecha till the Bris was doing what he could do. But he was still sick. He reached the 49th level. 49th. Vayera elav Hashem, Hashem appears to him, levaker es hachoyle, to visit the sick, to fill in the 50th. When you do what you can, Hashem gifts you with the part that you can't do. Hashem gifts you with transcendence. Hashem gifts you with going beyond and reaching higher than you can reach on your own. That's the story of Avraham Avinu, and that's the story of Lech Lecha and Vayera. Now let's see how this plays out into lots of other things. This concept. So I'll share with you a concept, a word from the Ishbitzer. The Ishbitzer says like this. He says in the beginning of the Parsha, he says, Vayera elav Hashem appeared to him. Why was he appearing? Because he says, because he was sitting at the tent. What does that mean? So he quotes a pasuk. He says, it says when Mashiach will come, there's a pasuk in Malachi, and it says, V'zorcha lochem, Hashem will shine to those that fear me, Yirei Shmi, those that fear my name. He will shine a sun of benevolence, which will heal with its wings, whatever that means, right? In other words, referring to a divine revelation compared to the rays of the sun, which Hashem will shine when Mashiach comes. To who? Le'yirei shmi, to those that fear my name. Says the Ishbitzer, that's exactly the same thing. Avram Avinu, he says, was sitting, Pesach Oil, was sitting at the door of the tent. He was sitting the whole time, yearning for divine revelation. Right? As some of the other Mefarshim, he says, he was before this revelation, he was yearning to connect to Hashem. And that's how he translates the pasuk. And there's, I think, the Noam Melech says, what does it mean he was sitting kachayim hayom? What does it mean he was sitting in the heat of the day? He was sitting in the heat and the warmth of Yiddishkeit. He completely was not involved in materialism. He was completely trying to take himself away from pursuit of the mundane, pursuit of material things, and just his whole life he spent trying to connect to Hashem. So he says, Vayera Elav Hashem. Hashem pitied him. Why? Because he was sitting at the tent waiting for him. Because he was yearning. Hashem says, when Mashiach comes, I will reveal to you who? I will take out the full strength of my son, S-U-N, to who? Le'yirei shmi, to those that already fear my name. If you fear me, if you give it over to me, if you're trying your best to connect to me, I will give you that revelation. But you have to try first. You have to be the one to struggle through it first, and then when you've done what you can, I'll give you the gift, right? And that's why it comes into this bris milah, and that's why after the bris milah, the revelation to Avraham Avinu was a completely different revelation. That's why the Beis Yaakov, the Ishvitz's son, explains. He says the same thing. He says that before we find that the word milah, the word bris milah comes the word words, right? Communication. He says it was only after the milah that now Avraham Avinu was able to receive from Hashem open communication person to person. Like it says, Mi Mileil Avraham, as another passage later on. It says, Mi Mileil Avraham conversed, he communicated. He praised Hashem. Like when people talk to each other, proper, clear communication and revelation from Hashem, because he first went through this whole madrega, he was able to reach what he could reach and go through the bris milah, and then he was able to do that. That's why he received this amazing gift from Hashem. Okay. How does this all connect to the end of the Parsha? So at the end of the Parsha, we find a very interesting thing. The Akedah. Again, it's still in Parshas Akedah, right? So, look at page 100. Let's just learn the first pasuk of the Akedah. It says the first pasuk, "Vahi achar advarim ha'ela." Right? And it was after these things, V'alakim nisas Avram, and God tested Avraham. Vayomer elav, and he said to him, Avram, and he says, he called him Avram, Vayomer, and he says, I'm here. And he tells him, take your son, take your thing, and go. So there's two very important questions on the Akedah. First one is, why does it say V'alakim nisas Avram? V'alakim, we know, Elakim is the name of Hashem of concealment. What does it mean? Why this name? Why will Elakim nisas? Why not Vashem nisas Avram? It's a revelation. He's talking to him. He's testing him. Why does it say? Why doesn't it say Vashem nisas Avram? Why will Elakim nisas Avram? Right. Secondly, there's a very, very famous question that the Zohar asks. He says, why do we always credit Avram Avinu with the test of the Akedah? Why don't we call it the test of Yitzchak? Right? After all, he was the one being put on the Mizbeach, right? He was the one that could have resisted, could have run away. It's not like he didn't know about it before. Yeah, Avram Avinu didn't tell him in the beginning, but according to the Medrash, according to Rashi, he figured it out exactly what was happening. They're on the way, they're going to Hebron, from Hebron to Yerushalayim. He's carrying wood, he's carrying stuff to make fire, and there's no animal. And Yitzchak says, where's the animal? He says, Hashem is going to show us the animal. Yitzchak right away understood that he's the animal. He's the sacrifice, right? Could run away. No. Paul says, they keep going. So, I'll share with you a word again from the Ishbitzer and his son, the Beis Yaakov, which highlights something very special about Avraham Avinu. First of all, says the Me'ah Shiloach, the Ishbitzer says that the test of the Akedah was a test of concealment. In other words, actually when Hashem came to test Avraham Avinu for the Akedah, it was actually a cryptic vision again. It wasn't a clear vision. Why? Because had it been a clear vision, it wouldn't be a test. Avraham Avinu had to struggle through the Akedah. He had to think. Hashem wanted to give Avraham Avinu a space for Avraham Avinu to rationalize himself. Maybe it wasn't Hashem. Maybe I misunderstood the communication. Maybe it wasn't exactly what Hashem told me to do. Right? And as Yaakov points out, as other Mefarshim point out, you have to understand that Avraham Avinu had every reason to resist the Akedah. Because Avraham Avinu had everything to lose with the Akedah. Everything. That was so different between the Akedah and all the other tests. As Yaakov explains, he says, this is why it's not Yitzchak. See, Yitzchak, there was no struggle for him. Yitzchak was born into monotheism. Yitzchak was born into Kedusha. Yitzchak was born as Avraham Avinu's child. Avraham Avinu says to him, Hashem says, let's go to the Akedah. We go to the Akedah. No questions asked. He was born there. Avraham Avinu struggled. First, Avraham Avinu struggled his whole life to reach a level to believe in Hashem properly and to connect to Hashem properly. Avraham Avinu wasn't born there. He had to struggle to get there. Not only that, the very struggle of Avraham Avinu to get there was the very struggle that was about to be undermined with the Akedah. Think of it. Avraham Avinu spends his whole life preaching monotheism, preaching morality, telling everyone how stupid and ridiculous it is to serve idols, how immoral it is to be a pagan worshipper, and how meritorious it is to follow Hashem, with all the morality that is connected with believing in the one God. And then what is he going to do now? He's going to take his son, after a cryptic vision, not even 100% sure that it was Hashem, he's pretty sure, but maybe not absolute clarity. He's going to shecht him on the Mizbeach and go bankrupt. Close down his shul. For sure. I want to say, you're a fraud. What do you mean? This is what you've been teaching us all life? Then you go and shecht your own son? You've been telling us a whole, for the last 70 years, you've been telling us to stop doing this kind of stuff. Now you're going to go do it? So the whole thing was a struggle. Yitzchak wasn't a struggle. Yitzchak was born. When I read it reminded me of a good story. A famous story. The first Gourarie Rebbe's name was the Sfas Emes. Became a Rebbe, became a tzaddik. Sfas Emes had a terrible life. He was a big tzaddik. He lost a lot of his children. And, sorry, not Sfas Emes. The Chidush Yarim, I'm sorry. The Chidush Yarim was the first Gourarie Rebbe. He lost a lot of his children, and so much so he lost all his sons and he had no successor. But he had a grandchild. The grandchild who became the next Gourarie Rebbe was the Sfas Emes. The Sfas Emes ended up becoming the Gourarie Rebbe. He was a big Hasidus in Poland. He was very young. I think he was in the early 20s, maybe before 20. He was a very, very young person. Before the Chidush Yarim passed away, he called up his grandson, the Sfas Emes, and he says, you need to take over. So Sfas Emes says, it's not shy, it's not possible. I mean, I'm only 20, I'm only young, I haven't got there, I've still a lot to do, You became a Rebbe, you're much older, you work towards it, you elevated yourself, you got there. So Chidush Yarim says, let me tell you a story. The story was of a mountain that people used to try and climb. And it was very, very, very difficult to climb. Place Kilimanjaro, Everest, I don't know whatever it is, right? So, people used to try and climb it, and they weren't successful. They used to die on the way, or they used to fall down, they used to stop in the middle. It took a lot of practice, a lot of experience, a lot of years of training. One guy, a guy who's been trying for years and training for years, finally decides he thinks he's ready, climbs the mountain, he climbs the mountain, he gets to the top. He gets to the top, he sees like a little kid, a teenager there, driving around the mountain. So, like in frustration, he thinks finally he's done all his years of experience, he's trained, he's done that, and he says, I made it to the mountain. Turns around to the little kid and he says, excuse me, how did you get here? Kid says, I was born on top here. So the Chidush Yarim says to Emes, you're right, it took me a long time to get to this page, but you were born here. You were born on the mountain, so you're fine. Yitzchak was born on the mountain. The Beis Yaakov connects it also. Gourarie and Chesed, he said Gourarie is discipline. Yitzchak was made. He was ready-made. Kedusha. He was born there. It's not a test. Not as much of a test. Avraham Avinu, the whole formula of Avraham Avinu was struggle. Avraham Avinu he wasn't born in Vayera. He had to get to Vayera. Like we all do. He had to fight for Vayera. Then he has this test in Hashem, it's Elokim, it's not even, it's half cryptic, he can afford to get there. Well, look, that's a test. That's a real test. But he passed the test, and he gets there, and he has his revelation from Hashem, Vayirah Hashem, and he passes the test, and Hashem reveals it to him again, says, now you've reached complete perfection. Right?
So what's that, the meaning of Elokim?
Elokim is hidden. It's a hidden message. It wasn't 100% clear. That was part of the test. And in addition to the fact that Avram Avinu struggled anyways to get to Vayera, he had to struggle as a creation before he can get to the level where he can go beyond creation. So that was all of the test for him. So how does it all connect to the Haftarah? Let's have a look. Haftarah is a fascinating Haftarah. So go to page 1134. It's actually a word that I've told you before, but never in the context of this Parsha. Yeah. So it's a very funny Haftarah. Why is it funny Haftarah? Because, Haftarahs are supposed to connect to the Parsha, right? Now, if you have a look at this Haftarah, it's in two parts. There's two stories in this Parsha, right? One story actually starts from Pasuk Ches, verse 8, which we're not going to go through now. And that's the story that's obviously connected to the Parsha, because it's about a woman called Isha Hashunamis. She used to host Elisha, the prophet. One time Elisha says, I want to reward you. What can I do for you? She says she has no child. And he blessed her with a child. The son was born. Later on there was a whole story. The son died and Elisha brought him back to life. So it's about a childless woman having a child. That's obviously connected to the Parsha, because in the middle of Vayera, we read about the birth of Yitzchak. Hashem pakadas Yitzchak. Beginning of Vayera, Hashem promises Sarah with a child. She laughs. Hashem says, no, I'm going to do it. Later on in Vayera, we read about the birth of Yitzchak. Perfect connection to the Haftarah. The problem is that Haftarah starts 8 psukim before that with an unrelated story, right? Now, sometimes Haftarah does that because in Haftarah we're supposed to read 21 psukim. Not all Haftarahs are like that, but we're supposed to try and have 21 psukim. So sometimes we have Haftarah that's part of it is connected to the Parsha, but not the whole thing, because we just added a piece on the same story to reach the right number of psukim, correct? The problem with here is that we wouldn't have to do that because there's plenty of psukim in Haftarah without the first 8. So why is the first 8 there? What's the connection to the Parsha? So what's the story? Let's have a look. Story says, V'isha achas, let's have a look. V'isha achas, right, you have it there? V'isha achas m'neshei b'nei anavim. There was a woman who was the wife of one of the sons of the prophets, one of the prophet's students. Tza'aka Elisha, she came to cry to Elisha, Lamer, to say, Avducha ishi meis, your servant, my husband has died. And you know, he was your servant, Yores Hashem, fearing Hashem. And the creditor has come now, to take my 2 sons, my 2 children, to be slaves to him. So Elisha says to him, what should I do for you? Hagidili, tell me, what do you have at home? She says, I have nothing at home. I have 1 little jug of oil. He says, go and borrow as many vessels as you can. Kelim reikim al tamiti. Do not spare empty vessels. Go and get as many empty vessels as you can. Right? And then you'll come, and I won't go to the whole thing inside. You'll come, you close the doors, and he came there and he did a miracle. The miracle was that the oil spilled over into became a fountain, and spilled over into all the vessels. They all filled up with oil, and the oil price went up, and she went and sold the oil, and she was saved. So we know that there's a famous concept in this, a Kabbalistic idea, what is actually going on a spiritual level. It comes from Torah as well. And the spiritual story goes like this. The Isha Achas, there's a woman. The woman is the Yid, the Jew, the soul. Who is, what is a Yid? The Yid is the wife of a Navi, the wife of a connection to Hashem. What's a Navi? A Navi is a communicator. The word Navi, actually, prophet comes to the word Nivs Fasayim, to communicate. We are connected to the communication with Hashem. We're supposed to be married to the communication to Hashem. And this Yid, this Jew, comes and cries to Elisha. Elisha is Hashem. Comes to the word Keli Shah, my God, save me, or turn to me. Right? That's the 2 words. and the neshama, or the person, the yid, comes to Hashem and complains and cries bitterly, she says, your servant, my husband, has died. Ishi, my husband. What's Ishi? Ishi means Aish. My enthusiasm has died. My fire has died. I'm flat, spiritually flat. And because I'm spiritually flat, I'm in big trouble. Why? The Hanoisha, the creditor referring to the Nefesh Abamis, the animal soul, the animalistic part of us, has come and wants to capture my two sons. What's the two sons? So we know that the two primary children of the neshama is love and fear. Avas Hashem and fear Hashem. We know that emotions are called children, right? Chachma and Bina are called parents. Midas, Chesed, Gourarie, and so on is called children. The two primary children of Chachma is Chesed and Gourarie, love of Hashem, fear of Hashem. So I possess these children somewhere deep in me, but the Noisha, the creditor, is coming, and he's coming to take away my children. He's coming to channel any bit of love and fear that I've got left into the wrong place. That they should be enslaved to the creditor, enslaved to the Nefesh Abamis, enslaved to the animal soul, to channel the love and fear to worldly, mundane, materialistic matters, rather than serving Hashem. But the neshama is crying, Hashem is crying, the yid is crying, I don't know what to do. It's gone. I can't revive myself. I'm not in the mood. I'm spiritually died. I'm spiritually flat. Elisha, so Elisha says to the neshama, no, this is not true. Ma yesh lach habayis. What do you have at home? Anything left? Is there anything left in you? So till the yid realizes, yes, of course. Osach shemen, a small jug of oil. Coming to Chanukah, by the way, it's connected to Chanukah this also. What's a small jug of oil? The pintel yid. The little oil at the very essence of the neshama that is never lost. That is the yechida, we call the fifth level. That's the point of the neshama, that's actually the point which connects the Jew to higher than himself. Because that's the point of connection between the creation, the Jew, and the Creator. This is the spark of godlinessness. This is the part of us that allows us to go beyond who we are and get beyond the creation, beyond the worlds, beyond any limitation, infinite, to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But, it's a gift, but you got to work for it. So if you want to revive yourself, says Elisha to the woman, work, do what you can. If you do what you can, I promise you, the gift will be there. The shemen will sprout and it will just overflow everything. But you got to do what do you got to do? Keilim reikim al tamiti. You've got to get yourself empty vessels, and the Parshas explain empty vessels explain differently different places. First of all, you've got to understand the emptiness. Part of serving Hashem is to understand the insignificance of the animal soul, to understand the emptiness of a life other than connecting to Hashem. But you've got to come to the realization yourself. You've got to battle through and battle through the temptation of this world, the temptation of your animal soul, the temptation of your own impulses and temptations, until you realize that you're on the wrong road. You've got to understand the emptiness of following that path. And when you when you understand deeply the insignificance of following that path, then you will yearn for connection to Hashem. You'll become a chayil, you'll become the sick person like Avraham Avinu was, yearning for a greater connection. Only when you move away from materialism, from the things of the world, and you put your whole focus and yearning into becoming connected to Hashem. The other interpretation of Kelim Rekim ultimately is become an empty vessel. Become someone who's ready to receive. You've got to refine yourself and make yourself ready to receive that gift. You've got to count the 49 days of the Omer so you can get the 50th gift. You've got to make yourself ready, make yourself a recipient. You're full of junk. If you get rid of everything else and just give yourself over and let go and surrender to Hashem, then I can let the oil sprout forth. I can let the oil overflow. So she goes and she empties out. She gets as many kelim as she can, and the oil overflows. The same formula as Avraham Avinu, the same formula that all of us have. The lesson we know is going back to this original lesson. By Yeira Eilav Hashem, Hashem can appear to everyone. We all can, on some level, in some way, we can all connect higher than ourselves. We can all have a very, very strong and higher connection to Hashem, to the point of experiencing a revelation and a connection to Hashem which is really beyond us. It's something we can't even do on our own. It's a gift. But we've got to learn from Avraham Avinu. We've got to battle through the journey first. we've got to go to the point of Lech Lecha. We've got to go through the whole Parsha of Lech Lecha first. We've got to battle through the questions. We've got to battle through the lack of clarity. We've got to battle through the temptations until we come to the point of Bris Milah, like Tzemach Tzedek told the little boy, the Rebbe Rashab. You've got to come to the point where we're ready to give ourselves over. When we're ready to give ourselves over, then Vayera Elav Hashem, the neshama, the shemen, the oil sprouts forth, and the neshama is revealed, and the connection of the higher connection of us going beyond what we're capable of is revealed to us. The nun, the 50th, levaker es ha'chayla. It's when we go to the chayla, when we get to the 49th level, the perfect level that we can reach ourselves, Hashem comes levaker es ha'chayla to visit the sick and to fill in the gap. Good.
What does a woman have to do?
The concept of the bris is the same. Bris milah is just a symbol. Women have it easier because the Gemara says that a woman is already born that way. She's born with the readiness to do that.
So we're all at readiness.
Well, we always got to work.